guys, here's your guys' quiz review, graphing quadratic functions in preparation for you guys' quiz. So I'm just gonna go over this whole thing and give you guys some tips and stuff. So for number one, this you guys is in standard form. And standard form is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So it makes sense that this is standard form, you guys, because this is standard form. And look, a, x to the second, it has an x to the second, bx has a middle term, and c. As long as it follows this format, then it's in standard form. Now, to find your guys' y-intercept, you guys always set x equals to 0, and you guys solve. Now, the cool thing about setting x equals to 0 and solving, you guys, you will notice that your answer is ultimately going to be -5. In standard form, you guys can see what your last term is, which will automatically be for y-intercept. So remember, you guys can see what the y-intercept is by just looking at it if you know it is in standard form. Okay, to find the x-intercept, this is where you set f of x equals 0 or y equals 0. F of x and y are the exact same thing. So when you guys do that, you guys set the whole thing equals to 0. Now the only way you guys can solve for x here, right? And remember, x-intercepts, you guys, the y's are zeros. The only way you guys can solve for x is if you guys actually factored this by using your x method. 5 and -1. So 0 equals x plus 5 times x minus 1. And you solve for both of them by setting both of them equals to 0. Now, a shortcut of this, you guys, is you can also notice that the opposite of these values, if it's linear factors, is pretty much your guys' x-intercepts. Look, opposite of +5, you guys, -5. Opposite of -1, +1. And you know it's the opposite because if we plug those in, then they'll be 0. So -5, 0 and 1, 0 are your guys' x-intercepts, okay? Now, to find your guys' axis of symmetry, you can use -x equals -b over 2a. Your b value, guys, is 4. So -4 over 2 times your a value, guys, is the coefficient in front of the x squared, which is 1. -4 over 2 times 1, you guys, it's going to give you guys -2. Remember, x equals -2. This has to be x equals that number, because when we graph the axis symmetry, you guys, it's a vertical line. You have to write this x equals part. You can't just write -2. You have to write x equals. Now, the axis symmetry is also the x coordinate of the vertex. And now to find your guys' y value, just plug in -2 into the original. So f of -2 equals, everywhere you see an x, it is now -2. And you guys solve. -2 squared is 4. 4 times -2 is -8, -5, which is -9. That's -9. Now, once you guys know the core 4, then you guys can graph. But before you graph, let's look at how to find these easily, right? If you guys have all this information, you should be able to find these 4 without even graphing. Watch. The a value, guys, is 1. And if the a value is positive, then you know it opens up. And if it opens up, you guys, that means it's a minimum. There's the lowest point right there. Domain for all quadratic functions, you guys, go infinitely to the left and right, so -infinity to infinity. Your range, well, how low is this graph, you guys? You know it opens up, so how low is that? Well, the lowest value is your guys' y coordinate of the vertex. Bracket, -9, comma, all the way to positive infinity. How low to how high? It goes this low, you guys, and it goes how high? All the way to positive infinity. So as you guys can see, I don't honestly need to graph this in order to find all my pieces, right? But now let's graph. 0, comma, -5. I'm just going to put these as 10s by 2s. So -5, comma, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's right there. 1, comma, 0. Remember, x-intercepts, you guys, are on the x-axis. Y-intercept is on the y-axis. So -5 is just around there. And axis of vertical asymptote, vertex, -2, comma, -9. And this is your guys' axis of symmetry. You need to graph all of these in order to get all of it correct. If there's one thing off, it will be incorrect. You need to graph your intercepts, x-intercepts, y-intercepts, your vertex, and you need to draw this dotted line. A lot of you have not been drawing the dotted line. You need to draw the dotted axis of symmetry. And again, everyone can see this is a dotted vertical line, which is why your axis of symmetry has to be x equals -2. Okay, so that finishes that one. Okay, you guys, this is factored form. This is in factored form right here. Because it's in its factors. These are factors, you guys, so that's how I know it's in factored form. So, again, y-intercept, you guys, you set x equals to 0. F of 0. Everywhere you see an x, it becomes a 0. 2 times 9 times -3, which is -54. 0, comma, -54, and x-intercepts, you guys. The beauty thing about factored form, you guys, is you can see what the x-intercepts are right there. Opposite of this one, -9, comma, 0. Opposite of this one, 3, comma, 0. And that makes sense because every time you guys find your x-intercepts, you always set f of x equals 0 or your y equals 0, right? And you guys would have something like that. And this is where you guys would set both of the x plus 9 and x minus 3 equals to 0, right? So if you guys do that, then you guys will be able to find your guys' x-intercepts. Axis of symmetry. To find your guys' axis of symmetry, you do x equals r1 plus r2 all divided by 2. R1 and R2, you guys, are your x-intercepts. It's not your guys' factors. So -9 plus 3, all divided by 2. -6 over 2, which is -3. X equals -3. X is equals to -3. So, now we plug the axis of symmetry is the x-coordinate of your vertex. So now, to find your guys' y value, plug in -3 back into the original equation. Everywhere you see an x, it now becomes a 3. So 2 times -3 plus 9, you guys, is 6. -3 minus 3 is -6. 2 times 6 is 12 times -6. 12 times 6, you guys. 6 times 2 is 12, so 2 and 1. 6 times 1 is 1. 6 plus 1, 72. -72. And that's your guys' vertex. Now, without even graphing, you could find your guys' concavity and stuff, right? A value is +2. So this opens up because your A value is positive. Max or minimum, because it opens up, that will give you guys a minimum. Domain for all quadratic functions, -infinity to infinity. Your range, well, if you guys know it opens up, how low to how high, right? How low it is, well, look at your y-coordinate of your vertex, right? It's -72. -72 to how high? Positive infinity. Now let's graph. 3, comma 0. X-intercepts. X-intercepts are on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Negative 9. Y-intercept is 0, comma negative 54, and your vertex is negative. So I'll just do these by negative 20. Those are all going down by 20. So 0, comma negative 54, you guys, is somewhere right there. And negative 3, comma negative 72, somewhere right there. And then your guys' graph will look something like that. Oh my gosh. Something like that. Axis of symmetry, x equals negative 3. So as you guys can see, this is your guys' graph. This is your guys' graph, and you need to graph each piece. X and Y intercept, X intercept, Y intercept, your guys' axis of symmetry, and your guys' vertex, right? You need to graph each piece, including the axis of symmetry line. Number 3. So for number 3, you guys can graph this. Though this is vertex form, you guys. This is vertex form. Main thing you can see from vertex before is parentheses and raised to the second power, right? That's usually an indication of a vertex form. So you can instantly see what the vertex is from this form. But first, let's find our y-intercept. Remember, you set x equals to 0. Everywhere you see an x, it becomes a 0. 0 plus 3, you guys, is 3 squared plus 8. 3 squared is 9. Negative 2 times 9, you guys, negative 18 plus 8, which is negative 10. So 0, comma, negative 10. Now, to find your guys' x-intercept, this is where you guys set your f of x equals to 0 or your y equals 0. They're the same thing, right? So 0 equals negative 2 times x plus 3 squared plus 8. Subtract 8 to both sides. Divide both sides by negative 2. 4 equals x plus 3 squared. Now from here, you guys, you gotta get rid of that second power, so you square root both sides. Now when you square root a variable on the other side of the equal sign, you're gonna get plus or minus. X plus 3. The only thing that changes will be this when you make your two equations. So 2 equals x plus 3 remains the same. Negative 2 equals x plus 3 remains the same. Only this number has a plus and a minus. And then you guys solve by subtracting 3 to both sides. And you guys will get x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 1. So, again, you guys know for x-intercepts, your y's are 0, negative 1, comma 0, and negative 5, comma 0. Now, the beautiful thing about vertex form is you guys have your vertex, which is the opposite of this, and the same as this, so negative 3, comma 8. Your guys' axis symmetry is x equals negative 3. Remember? Because it's the x-coordinate of your vertex. Concavity, look at your a value, guys. Because it's negative, you know it opens down. So it opens down. You're going to get a maximum from that. And your guys' domain. Negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range. Well, you guys know it opens down, and your vertex is negative 3, comma 8. So the lowest this graph goes, you guys, is negative infinity. The highest it goes is positive 8 with a bracket. Now let's actually graph this, right? 0, comma negative 10. I'll just do these by 2's. Let's see. So doing these by 2's. So x-intercept, negative 1, comma 0. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Negative 5, comma 0. Y-intercept, 0, comma negative 10. And vertex, 1, 2, 3, Oh. I graphed that at -6, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -3, 8. And then there you guys go. And then there is your guys' axis of symmetry. And it has to have all the pieces, okay? The next video, I will also do problems 4 through 6, okay? I'll do 4 and 6 on the next video.